renewable babies, and welcome to the Renewa Novela Chapter 3 and 4.
Nasa puso lamang makikita ang tunay na yaman.
So in this series, pag-uusapan natin yung solar thermal systems and photovoltaic system. So in this power plants, dito natin malalaman yung different types of renewable energy resources that can be collected in the sun. So ano ba yung description nito, yung mga parts or kung ano yung mga process nito, malalaman natin dito sa series na to. So keep watching and sana may matutunan kayo.
So, nandito tayo ngayon upang i-discuss yung solar thermal system. So, this is one of the types of solar energies which they collect energy from the sun. So, ano nga ba yung pagkakaiba ng solar thermal system sa photovoltaic system? But mag-focus tayo dito sa solar thermal system because my other group mates will discuss the photovoltaic system. So, let's define first what is solar thermal system. Solar thermal system, also called as CSP or concentrating solar power. So, this power plant collects energy from the sun with the use of special mirrors. The collected energy is being reflected or redirected to a tube. This causes the fluid to achieve high temperature. The fluid then transfers its heat to water, which becomes a superheated steam. This steam is then used to turn turbines in a power plant, and this mechanical energy is converted into electricity by a steam. So, ang pagkakaiba ng solar thermal system sa ibang power plants, ito, ginagamitan siya ng heat or init para to heat that certain fluid to be transferred its heat to water. So, yung fluid na yun painitin din, then itatransfer yung init na yun doon sa water. So, yung water na yun, ang mangyayari, this will be converted into a super steam or superheated steam. So, this steam then will be used to turn turbines. So, sa ibang power plants, yung sa mga ibang renewable resource, ang ginagawa, diba, halimbawa sa hydro power plant, diba, they use elevation para rumagasa yung tubig, then iikot yung turbine. So, dito, may pinapainit silang certain fluid to achieve high temperature para i-transfer yung heat na yon sa water. So, to further explain it, let's move on to the another slide. So, types of solar thermal system. So, parabolic trough, solar tower, linear Fresnel reflector, and parabolic dish. So, first, i-discuss natin dito yung parabolic trough. So, dito so note, despite there are several different types of STS operates the same principle. It refers on the previous slide, they differ only in the manner of collecting sunlight and concentrating it into a certain point. So, despite nga na merong different types of STS or in solar thermal systems, same lang sila ng principle, but nagkakaiba sila sa pagkukolekta ng sunlight or yung energy coming from the sun. So, dito yan. So, first, ang i-discuss natin is yung parabolic trough. This trough is also known as fine as line focus collectors. are lined up in rows in a solar field and are composed of a long parabolic shaped reflector that concentrate incident sunlight on a pipe that run down at the middle of the track. The collectors utilize a single-axis solar tracking system to track the sun across the sky as it moves from east to west to ensure that there is always maximum solar energy incident on those mirrors. The receiver pipe in the center can reach temperature upward of 400 degrees centigrade or Celsius if the trap focuses sun at 30 to 100 times its normal intensity. So, etong traps ng mga to, yung parabolic traps, these are special mirrors kasi. So, makikita nyo sa picture yung special mirrors nila. So, ang nangyayari dito, yan pa, shape siya na parang parabola, no? Yung mirrors na to then will collect the energy from the sun, then yung reflection ng sun na yun napupunta dito sa tube or will be reflected here sa tube. So ang mayayari nun ay tong tube na to, nakikita nyo naman yung tube na to, iinit yan. So bakit nga ba mas kailangan nilang gawing mas mainit pa sa energy na nakokollect nila sa sun para mas uminit pa dito sa tube na to. So, parang may ginagawa kasi sila ditong technique which yun na yun, special mirrors nga na kailangan na yun, which nagtitrigger ng mas mataas na init pa or yung normal intensity, heat intensity para mapainitan itong tube na to. So, yun yung ginagawa nila. Parang may techniques or may ginagawa silang ibang paraan para mas magkaroon ng higher heat intensity kesa sa sun. So, yun nga. So, ito nga yung parabolic shaft. Yan, parabola shape pa. Then, ito yung tube na to. Yung loob ng tube na yan, which contains those fluids or sabihin na natin dito na heat transfer fluid. So, heat transfer fluids na to, they vary to heat up on a certain temperature. So, maraming types ng heat transfer fluids which will be discussed later kung saan bakit nga ba kailangan pa ng ganong types of specific fluids, bakit hindi na lang water. So ang gagawin dito, so summary, gagawin dito, the sun will be collected, the sun will be the parabolic shaft will collect the sun's energy, then those energy will be reflected, then transferred here in the tube or be redirected here in the tube, then those tube will be heat up, then those kapag ka na-heat up yung tube na yun, then will be heated na yung mga heat transfer fluids or yung those specific fluids. So ayan yun. Ito yung tube na to. So yung tube na to, glass yan. It's a strong type of glass. Tapos, eto may vacuum dyan. Ayan yung tube. So, ayun nga. Sabi dyan, ayan yung sunlight. No? Yung sunlight. So, since parabolic shape siya, ayan, parabolic shape siya, yung sunlight na yon doon, tatama sa tube na yan. So, yung tube na yan, mag-heat up or yung glass. Then, yung sa loob nun, etong blue na to, yan yung heat transfer fluids. Yan. So, mag-heat up yan, then, it will be transferred yung heat na yon sa water which will become a superheated steam. So, malalaman pa natin, ayan yan. So, dito natin further explain yun. So, ito yung parabolic trap steaming process. So, these are the parabolic traps. Kita nyo yan, di ba? Yung parabolic traps na yan, which has tubes on the middle, nandyan yung mga heat transfer fluids. Yan. Kapag ka nakolekta na yung energy that came from this sun, mag-heat up yan. Then, yung heat na yon matatransfer dito sa thermal energy storage. So, kung saan merong hot salts and cold salts. Then, yung heat na yon matatransfer dun sa water. Then, yan, dito, pupunta yan, may water yan. Then, yung water dyan will be converted into a superheated steam. So, papunta siya dito, pupunta yan dyan. Dito nasa turbines. So, yung superheated steam na yun, di ba may pressure? Taas pressure yan. Then, ang mangyayari dyan, those superheated steam or yung steam na nga na may mataas na pressure due to high temperature yung water naging superheated steam because of the high temperature will turn these turbines and turn the generator which will convert into electricity. So ayun na, maging electricity na siya. Yun yung process ng parabolic trap steaming process. So yung gas naman na yon or yung 'di ba yung naging gas na nga yung water. So magko-condensate yan. Yan. Magko-condensate yan. Pupunta siya dito sa condenser heat exchange to be recycled again. Yan, papunta dito para ma-recycled uli, para magamit uli dito. Yan, para magamit uli as another batch of water para ma-recycle. Kumbaga, recycle lang siya. Recycle lang yung process niya. So, alang natatapon dito kasi pinapaulit-ulit lang nila. So, maybe merong maintenance na papalitan yung water in once at a time or halimbawa once a month or once a year. So, yun lang yung maintenance doon. So, yun yung kagandahan nito na wala siyang ini-emit na pollution since water lang yung process ng pag-turn dito sa generator ng electricity. So, ito yung nasa loob ng ito yung tube. So, ito lang yung basic heat exchange. So, heat from the sun is being collected by special mirrors as we have mentioned it earlier, which is then reflected to the pipe that will runs down the middle of the trap. So, within this center pipe is within the central pipe is a heat transfer fluids or yung minensyon ko na kanina, HTF, flowing inside it. The HTF inside the pipe can reach temperature around 400 centigrade as the crowd focuses sun in a 80 to 100 times its normal intensity. This hot fluid goes to exchanges where the type of heat is transferred to water, generating high-pressure superheated steam. So, ito lang yung sinasabi natin kanina dito na process na. Ito lang din yun. So, mas elaborated lang dito sa part na to. Then, this steam then moves a turbine to power generate produce electricity. The heat transfer fluid then keeps circulating within the system. The steam is being condensed which is sent back to the heat exchangers. So, dito, yung na-condense na water will be sent back here. So, yun nga sinasabi natin na recycled process din siya. So, in a solar thermal system, heat transfer fluids is a liquid or gas specifically manufactured for purpose of transmitting heat from one system to another. So there are types of heat transfer fluids. Ito yun, there are 6 types. Air, water, molten salts, glycol-based, glycerol-based, and synthetic oil. So, bakit nga ba kinakailangan ng heat transfer fluids instead of just directly going to heat water na lang and convert it into steam? So, why hindi na lang water yung gamitin? So, i-discuss din natin yun. So, ayan. Why use HTF instead of the direct system in which water instantly turned into steam by the heat reflected near a solar thermal system or CSP? So, in this case, ang sagot dyan, ito. So, explain muna natin bago natin i-read to. So, kaya gumagamit ng heat exchange fluids dahil meron itong certain heat capacity to maintain a certain level of hotness. So, bakit kinakailangan magkaroon ng high level of hotness? 'Di ba? It only works kung tirik ang araw. So, kung gagamit lang tayo ng water, it can be cooled down easily. Yung HTF or yung heat transfer fluids, these are types of fluids nga na which can maintain its hotness capacity in a long period of time. Since nga it only collects energy from the sun, paano pag gabi? No? Paano pagka gabi sila gabi, hindi na makakakuha ng energy since gabi yan. So, yun yung purpose ng heat transfer fluids. It can be maintained the high level of hotness in a long period of time. So, which can be transferred siya into a storage or in a tight vessel. So, ayan, nakita natin. Then, being stored in tight vessel. So, para siyang, di ba, pagka naglagay tayo ng tubig sa thermos, no? Na, andun lang siya. So, kahit magdamag mo siya, mainit pa din. Yun yung sinasabi dito na kailangan na yung heat transfer fluid is important because it can be a reserve heat temperature or yung it can be a reserved high temperature para kung sakaling halimbawa gabi or tag dito cloudy days, merong reserved energy na pwede mong pagkuhanan kahit walang tirik na araw. So, yun. So, basahin natin. These work fluids have high heat capacity if can maintain a high level of hotness in a long period of time. That is what in CSP. Large volume of HTF is heated to an elevated temperature during daytime where the sunlight intensity is at its peak. Then it begins stored in a tight vessel if it acts as a reservoir power then can be used during cloudy days. When the sun's intensity is at its lower or during nighttime where there is no totally presence of sunlight. So yun. Kapag alang sunlight, paano mag-heat yung tube na yun? No? So, kailangan ng HTF to act as a reserved energy kung sakaling nighttime man where there is no presence of sunlight about during nighttime or cloudy days. Yun yung purpose kung bakit heat transfer fluids ang nakalagay doon sa tube na to instead of water, which pwede mong gamitin din yung water kaya lang it's not efficient for it's not efficient for, you know, maintaining its hotness kung water na lang. So, kailangan ng HTF or yung heat transfer fluids. So, Trixie will continue this report about solar thermal systems, and my other group mates will continue to report the photovoltaic system. So, thank you for listening, and Trixie, you can report it, continue this report about solar thermal systems. Thank you.
Let's move on to what type of HTF or heat transfer fluid to use. The following characteristics are being considered on what type of HTF is to be used in a solar thermal power. So, dito nakapaloob kung ano ba yung mga characteristic na kinoconsider sa pagpili ng type ng HTF na gagamitin dun sa solar thermal power. First, we have operating temperature. Second, life cycle. Third, heat transfer capability, heat storage aspect, and overall safety and yung cost. May note dito na ang sabi, the use of molten salt in parabolic trough system can heat the heat transfer fluid to 550 degrees, has a better performance than a synthetic oil which can heat the HTF to only 400 degrees Celsius or less. So, sabi, mas maganda daw yung performance ng paggamit ng molten salt kesa dun sa synthetic oil. Solar tower working principle, or kung paano nga ba nag-work yung solar tower or yung solar thermal power plant. Solar tower. So, dito nyo makikita yung kung paano ba nagwo-work yung isang solar tower. So, the setup includes an array of large numbers computer-controlled sun tracking mirrors known as heliostats. So, andito yon doon sa may parang nagre-reflect na may mga naka-diagonal na mirrors. Yun yung tinatawag na heliostats. Sunlight can be concentrated as much as 1,500 times its normal intensity. These mirrors moves in dual axis and are located at the ground level, which collects energy from the sun, then reflects it towards a receiver which contains HTF or heat transfer fluid located at the top of a tower. The HTF is being heated at around 600 degrees, and just like in the parabolic trough, this HTF through pipes, it goes to a set of heat exchangers. Then it transfers heat to the either, thereby generating high pressure superheated system which is being used to turn a steam turbine. So, yung process nito or yung working principle nito ay para lang din daw doon sa parabolic trough. Linear Fresnel reflector. The design of this type is a combination of parabolic trough and solar tower. This uses flat mirrors instead of parabolic mirrors used in parabolic troughs. These flat mirrors moves in one axis only, unlike solar tower and parabolic dish which moves in two. It adopts the working of solar tower where the mirrors on the ground collects light from the sun and reflects it towards a fixed receiver located above. So, hindi ko nababasahin yung buong meaning ng linear Fresnel reflector. Sa simpleng pagde-describe sa linear Fresnel reflector, kumbaga, flat yung mirrors niya, unlike doon sa trough. And then, yung sunlight, pag tumama doon, it's either flat or slightly na naka-bend na ganun or tawag doon, naka-angle yung mirror. So, para yung pag tumama yung sunlight doon sa may mirror, mag-transfer yung heat from the sun or yung sunlight papunta doon sa may reflector sa gitna, which is yun yung magko-collect ng energy from the sun, and then yung And then yung na-absorb doon, magta-transfer ulit. Kumbaga nagba-bounce lang. Hanggang sa makikita dito, mag-move na tayo dito sa isang slide. Magta-transfer yung light doon sa may mirrors, and then magta-transfer doon sa may reflector niya, which is nandun lang sa gitna, nakaangat doon, na meron ding tube doon. And then yung pag na-receive na nung receiver yung energy from the sun, mapupunta siya sa turbine, and then yung turbine naman, yun naman ang magpapa-under dun sa generator, which is makakapag-generate na ng electricity. Flat mirrors are used, which are cheaper. So, mas mura kasi yung mga flat na mirrors kasi dun sa mga naka-curve na mga mirrors. One big disadvantage with this design is the shading effect of adjacent mirrors, which cannot be encountered only by utilizing more ground space, which increases cost. So, yung isa daw sa mga malalaking disadvantage sa design na to ay yung shading effect, which yung na-encounter ng only by utilizing more ground space, which is nakakapagpataas ng cost. Very high temperatures are not produced as compared to a parabolic trough or a solar tower, and therefore the efficiency is less. So, hindi ganun kainit or hindi ganun ka taas yung temperature na napoproduce nitong linear Fresnel or Fresnel, na search ko, Fresnel pala ang tasa dito. Dito sa linear Fresnel reflector as compared doon sa may parabolic trough or dun sa solar tower. Parabolic dish working principle. Ano naman daw pa kung paano daw ba nag-work, kung ano yung principle ng parabolic dish. Parabolic dish. This consists of sets of flat mirrors combined to form a large parabolic dishes that is attached to a motor sensor which tracks the movement of the sun in dual axis. The collected energy from the sun is being connected or concentrated to the PCU, or ang PCU ay Power Conversion Unit, located at the focal point of the dish. The PCU consists mainly of thermal receivers and Stirling engine. The thermal receiver, which is a heat changer, transfer its heat to the Stirling engine, causing it to reciprocate. This reciprocating movement causes the rotation of an electric generator. These dishes can concentrate sunlight much better than parabolic troughs, and the fluid run through them can reach temperature upwards of 750 degrees centigrade. Because of the limitation of size and the small quality or quantity of fluid, parabolic dish collectors are suitable for small scale power generator or power generation. So, itong parabolic dish na to ay kinukonsider siya ng parang para siyang yung ginagamit na parang sa solar, what do you call that? Yung parang dun sa may solar, yung nasa space na yung mga nasa space, di ba parang ganun siya, ganun yung itsura niya. And then meron yung sunlight, pagka yung sunlight naman na ang tumama doon, magfo-focus lang siya doon sa receiver na nandun sa pinaka-focal point niya. So makikita niyo naman dito kung ano yung itsura ng parabolic dish. Para siyang isang malaking plato na may receiver sa gitna, which is pag tumama yung sunlight doon, nagko-concentrate lang yon na magre-reflect doon sa may receiver, which is Yung collected na solar energy ay magfo-focus din nga dun sa small focal point area that is positioned in front of the dish. And the small mirror-like reflectors are used to concentrate the thermal energy to the heat absorber in the focal point area. And then yung energy na nakuha doon ay magta-transfer dun sa scaling engine, which is makakapag-generate na ng or papasok na dun sa may generator, which is yun na ang makakapag produce ng electricity. So ganun yung working principle ng parabolic dish. Almost halos the same lang silang lahat, pero depende lang kung paano yung position ng mirrors. So basically, itong parabolic dish hindi lang naman siya mirror, pwede rin yung mga lens, basta makakapag-absorb and then magbabounce yung heat doon sa may reflector. Then that's all.
Photovoltaic system. Let's start. How do solar power plant work? Solar power plants uses the sun's rays to produce electricity. It has two main types. So ayun, familiar naman na siguro tayo sa solar power plant. Pero ayun, quick review lang. Yung mga solar power plants, gumagamit to ng energy na nanggagaling sa araw para makapag-produce ng electricity. And meron tong two main types na i-discuss natin. Okay, yung unang type is yung photovoltaic system. This type uses the energy from the sun and converts it into electricity using a solar panel. So ayun, sa photovoltaic, ginagamit niya yung energy ng sun and i-convert niya yun into electricity by means of solar panels. Familiar naman siguro tayo ano yung solar panel, ano yung itsura niya. Madalas natin yan makikita sa mga establishments like malls, schools na nagre-rely dito para makapag-produce ng electricity. Okay, yung pangalawang type is yung solar thermal systems. Solar thermal uses mirrors to collect energy from the sun to heat a certain fluid to a high temperature. This fluid heat to water, which becomes pressure from the steam, causes then transfer its superheated steam. The pressure from the steam causes the turbine to turn. So sa solar thermal naman na i-discuss na din to previously, pero papiyawan uli natin. So ito naman gumagamit ng mirror na kung saan yung energy coming from the sun, yun yung magpapainit sa isang certain fluid, which is the heat transfer fluid or HTF for short. Sa mataas na temperature, ngayon yung HTF gagawin niyang steam yung water, then yung steam na yun yung ipapaig sa turbine. So ayun, similar sila yung dalawa dahil pareha sila gumagamit ng energy from the sun, magkaiba lang ng proseso. Types of solar panels. The first one is the monocrystalline. Monocrystalline cells are solar cells made from silicon crystallized into a single crystal. Their efficiency is 15% to 24%, but their manufacturing is complex and expensive. Usually it's black. So, ayun, kapag monocrystalline, ito yung kulay black na solar panel. Meron din kasing blue na i-discuss ko after. So, sa monocrystalline, ito yung solar cell na gawa sa silicon na crystallized into a single crystal. Yung efficiency na nag-range from 15 to 24%. Tapos ayun, yung paggawa nito komplikado at may kamahalan. Next. Polycrystalline. polycrystalline solar cells are made from silicon crystals. The difference is that instead of being extruded as a single pure ingot, the silicon crystal cools and fragments on its own. These fragments are melted in an oven and form into cubes, which are cut into thin wafers. So, itong polycrystalline, ito naman yung kulay blue na gawa din sa silicon crystal. Ang pinagkaiba lang nila, yung silicon crystal nito lumalamig and nagpa-fragment in its own. How do solar cell work? So ayun, paano nga ba nag-work yung solar cell na yun na tinatawag natin? Let us start on the first thing that is happening inside a solar cell when sunlight strikes it. For maximum efficiency to occur, the solar cell must absorb as many energy as it can from the sun. The more energy it absorbs, the more energy it can supply. Here is the thing. Around 5% of energy from the sun is already lost due to reflection once it hits the glass, which is the top layer. So, para ma-achieve natin yung maximum efficiency, dapat maka-absorb tayo ng maraming energy from the sun as possible for us to provide great energy. Because the more energy absorbed, the more energy it can supply. The less energy absorbed, the less energy it can supply. So, ayun. Around 5% na ng energy from the sun yung nawawalan due to reflections sa pagbanda sa glass, yung top layer. Para maiwasan natin yung losses, we need to apply a certain barrier. Yan na nga papasok yung tinatawag natin na anti-reflection coating na magmi-minimize sa losses na yon. To avoid further losses from the sun's energy upon entering the glass, this is where the anti-reflection coating comes into play. Scenario to be avoided to prevent losses due to reflection. This happens when coating is incorrect. So, dapat yung pag-apply din natin ng coating is tama para mag-prevent natin yung losses dahil sa reflection.
We have the scenarios to be avoided to prevent losses due to reflection. So, meron tayong tinatawag na waves are aligned and waves are misaligned. So, alamin natin kung ano yung tinatawag natin na waves are aligned. So, ito is nangyayari kapag yung sunlight is in-strike niya yung the topmost layer, which is yung tinatawag nating tempered glass, some of energy will bounce back and doesn't penetrate the glass anymore. And then, when it reaches the bottom, there are also some which are being reflected. And if that reflected from the bottom is in direct synchronization to the reflected ray from the top, ang mangyayari dito, yung waves niya is perfectly aligned. Ito, misaligned, perfectly aligned. Tandaan natin na kapag yung reflected from the bottom is in direct synchronization, ito, ang mangyayari is yung waves niya is perfectly aligned. So, ano naman yung tinatawag natin na waves are misaligned? Itong pangalawang figure, ito yung tinatawag nating waves are misaligned. So, coming from the sun, it strikes from the topmost layer or yung tinatawag nating tempered glass, then some of it will bounce back, and when it reaches the bottom, some of it will also bounce back. So it will bounce ray from the top bottom is not aligned. Ito, hindi na siya aligned. So ano yung tinatawag nating right amount of coating? So ganito dapat yung mangyayari kapag ini-apply na natin yung right amount of coating. So, with the right amount of coating, the reflected energy can be minimized if not totally cancelled. So, when the sun strikes the top, very less energy is being bounced back. So, it penetrates to the bottom from the bottom at pagdating sa bottom, which is the
anti-reflection coating, there are some being bounced back also. So, pero reflected rays are being cancelled, are being collected back to the system. So, tumama, tumagos, and kinolek. Ganun yung right amount of coating. So, para mas maintindihan natin yung anti-reflection coating, ito yon. Anti-reflection coating lets the light in but mostly it doesn't let the light to be reflected out. It also makes some of the reflected light to get back. Certain manipulation is being done during manufacturing to achieve that characteristics. So, ito nga yung tinatawag nating anti-reflection coating. Pinapapasok nito yung light, but mostly, hindi nito hinahayaang ma-reflected out yung light. So, may mga manipulation na nangyayari during manufacturing para ma-achieve yung mga characteristics. So, kung may magtatanong na, why not directly use the silicon junction in catching the energy for the sun? So, pwede naman palang silicon na lang yung ilagay natin, wag na natin lagyan ng mga layer sa taas, and yung diretsong silicon na lang yung patamaan natin sa araw. So, bakit nga ba hindi na lang hayaan na silicon yung patamaan sa araw? So, ito yung sagot. The silicon, being a conductor, is a bit shiny. Exposing it directly to the sunlight may lose about 30% of sun's energy due to reflection. So, alam naman natin na yung silicon, being conductor, di ba, ito ay makintab or shiny. So, kapag ka na-expose natin ito sa sunlight without any barrier on top, 30% agad ng energy yung maaaring mawala sa atin dahil nga sa reflection. Dahil alam naman natin na yung silicon is shiny. So now, here's the question. What's the main thing that is happening inside the solar cell or photovoltaic cell that is why it is able to produce electricity when sunlight strikes it? So, bago natin masagot yan, alamin muna natin kung ano yung tinatawag nating photovoltaic effect. So, the photovoltaic effect is the generation of voltage and electric current in the material upon exposure to light. It is a physical and chemical phenomenon. So, yung tinatawag nating photovoltaic effect, ito yung generation ng mga voltahe at electric current in material kapag ka na-expose na ito sa light or sa liwanag. So, paano natin ma-achieve yung photovoltaic effect? So, para ma-achieve yung photovoltaic effect, we need material which when struck by sunlight will exhibit some characteristics of a conductor. So, para ma-achieve natin yung tinatawag nating photovoltaic effect, kailangan natin ng material na kapag ka tumama or na-extract ng sunlight ay may karakteristik ito or nagpapakita ng karakteristik ng isang conductor. Ano example natin dyan? Ang example natin dyan is the copper. So, what is happening inside the copper conductor when there is no presence of voltage across it? Its valence electrons are free to move, transferring from one atom to another in random. So, alamin muna natin ilan ba yung atomic number ng copper. So, sa copper, may atomic number tayo na 29. Minimum of 2, maximum of 8, and the third shell is contained of 18. The last shell is 1. Yun yung tinatawag nating Yung last electron na tinatawag, ito yung tinatawag natin na valence. So, ang mangyayari, dahil isa na nga lang yung valence niya, kasi minimum of 2, maximum of 8, and the third shell is contained of 18, the last shell is 1. Yung tinatawag nating last shell is the valence. So, ang magiging sagot dito na kapag ka tinanong kung ano yung mangyayari sa copper conductor kapag ka walang present ng voltage across it. Dahil isa nga lang yung valence natin sa ating conductor, which is the copper, ang mangyayari, yung valence electrons natin are free to move, transferring from one atom to another in random. So, that particular characteristics of a conductor where there are number of electrons that moves freely is what should be attained to exhibit the photovoltaic effect. So, this is where the silicon semiconductor comes into play. Ano naman yung tinatawag nating silicon semiconductor? So, when the silicon semiconductor absorbs energy from the sun, the photons which the sunlight have could knock an electron out of its orbit within an atom, making it free to move within the system in random. Ano naman yung tinatawag nating photons? It's yung photons, ito yung nagna-knockouts ng mga electrons. So, kapag na-achieve na natin yung tinatawag na photovoltaic effect, dito papasok ang silicon semiconductor. Kapag yung silicon semiconductor is naka-absorb na ng energy from the sun, yung tinatawag nating photons na mayroon sa sunlight, ina-knock out naman ito yung electron within an atom para makagalaw ng free or ng malaya yung mga within the system in random. So, meron naman tayong tinatawag na lattice structure of silicon atom forming a covalent band with 4 neighboring atoms. So, kung nakalimutan na yung tinatawag na covalent band, yung tinatawag na covalent band is the bond being formed is in a pair of electrons. So, to understand it clearly, Edmark will discuss it to you. Thank you.
Another thing that is needed to achieve by the silicon semiconductor is for it to exhibit the characteristic of a battery, where there is an imbalance of charge on both sides. Therefore, two sides should be created, the so-called p-n junction, making the two sides of the junction positively charged and negatively charged. Pure silicon is not enough to achieve this. This is achieved through doping. Doping is the addition of other substance in a semiconductor for the purpose of modifying its electrical conductivity. So, here's another questions. What substance should be used as dopant for the silicon to become negatively charged? Ang answer dun is P-type. Next, what substance should be used as dopant for the silicon to become positively charged? Ang sagot dun is yung N-type. On the N-type side, phosphorus is being used as doping materials, while on the P-type, it's boron. So, kapag sinabi natin positively charged, matik N-type side. N-type side yun. Pag negatively charged, P-type yun. So, para magkabaliktad sila. So, lattice structure of silicon with boron as dopants. So, yan. Makikita natin yung structure niyan. At papakita ko sa inyo kung ano kinaibahan ng silicon with phosphorus and silicon with boron. So, magkaiba yan, yung phosphorus and boron. So, yan. N-type material and P-type material. So, Si for silicon, P for phosphorus, and yung mga kulay blue dyan is yung electron. So, makikita nyo dyan. So, to, lattice structure of P-N junction in a solar panel. Holes, depletion region, and electrons. Makikita nyo na yung holes and electrons ay parang nagko-compress siya sa gitna. And depletion region yung parang naghahati, yung parang hati nila. So, makikita nyo dyan. So, since there is the rush of electron from the N sides toward the P side, the charge of the two sides will be reversed, making the boron dope P side become slightly negative, and the phosphorus dope N side slightly positive. This rush of electrons will quickly from a barrier the two sides called depletion region. In here, equilibrium is being reached, then electron stops flowing. An electrical field is definitely created. The silicon junction is now exhibiting a characteristic of a battery. Sunlight entered the N-type side that penetrates the depletion region. So, yung N-type daw yung mas penetrate na region kaysa sa P-type. This process knocks an electron out of the band, as many as it can, creating a pair of free electron and holes in the depletion region. The electric field drives the pair out of the depletion region. The free electron goes into the N-type side and holes in the P-type side, resulting in higher concentration of both. When loads are being connected to both sides, electron from N-type side begins to flow, recombining with holes towards the P-type side. We all know this unidirectional flow of electrons in direct current. Practically, in a solar panel, the top layer, which is the N-type, thin and heavily doped, while the bottom P-type. So, malalaman natin na yung N-type pala is nasa taas and yung P-type is nasa bottom. So, makita natin yung parang structure dito na yun nga, sunlight. Makita nyo yung mga example dito. Parang anong nangyaring process? Ayan, di ba? Kung ano yung mga material. Syempre, kailangan natin sunlight dun kumukuha ng solar power. Solar power gamit yung sunlight, di ba? Kung walang sunlight, bali wala to. Parang mawawala yung idea nito. So, ang pinaka-important dito is talaga yung sunlight. Dito kumukuha ng power, di ba? So, step up transformers are required to boost the 480 to 690 volts inverters output voltage to the 13.8 kV to 46 kV of the medium voltage utility network. It is then connected to a substation for distribution into residential area. When installed at a site, solar modules are wired together in series in form strings. And strings of modules are connected in parallel when necessary to form an array. In a traditional PV plant, single centralized inverter provides the voltage conversion. So that's my part. Thank you.